Hey, Lynette.
Hi.
I think we are good. It's live streaming. I don't know if anyone will watch us, but if you're out there, hey. Will you do me a favor? Will you test to make sure it's working?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
It's working because I can hear myself in the background.
It's working. Yeah.
And we'll record this. I don't think we've recorded any of the other meetings, but we'll do a recording on this one.
Perfect. Some of the committees we were in were recording. I don't know.
It's weird. I have two screens and I see you live right here, and then like a 3-second delay on this screen. I see myself moving. Well, two people are watching us. I think it's you and me. I think I'm automatically one of the 3 people watching.
I'm linking the agenda book in the chat.
Cool.
It's gonna be the document with the most hits on the website.
We did not build in any time between any of these meetings. It goes from one to the other.
I know I was conflicted with putting in breaks or like just like getting it done, you know.
I think it's better getting it done because it makes the day. I mean, if you add breaks, that adds an extra, what, 45 minutes to an hour?
Yeah. So the whole. Yeah. Well, hopefully we won't have to do this again.
True, true.
Who knows though?
Let Lisa in.
We just go ahead and let everyone in.
Yeah, I think we could just probably disable the thing and just let everybody in. I'm gonna start the recording too. Just so I don't forget. Morning, Speaker Psyche.
Hey, Speaker Psyche. Can you hear me okay? Oh, maybe not. He just took his earphones out.
I don't think he's connected to the audio yet.
That's fine. Just wanted to say the state federal committee was like still cranking. I just left those guys in like 3 minutes ago. So, but we can't wait more than just a minute. That's what I know. Hey, Speaker Psyche, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So the state federal committee, I don't know how it was going to institution committee, but the state federal committee was still going really strong just like 1 minute ago. And I sent some very menacing messages to the staff, like you have to end at. So I would maybe we'll just give like one or 2 minutes, but not long, because people got football games to watch and snow to shovel and grass to cut. I see Representative Capriglione is.
Hey there, how's it going?
Are you shoveling snow or cutting grass in Texas?
No, we haven't got snow in about a year, so
okay.
We're good. It's cold though. We're at 35. So,
oh, geez, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not cold.
No. Cold for us.
Yeah, what kind of snow are you guys getting out in Honolulu? The storm getting you guys?
There's a tsunami warning today.
I saw that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but there's no threat.
For Hawaii.
Yeah, there's no, I don't think there's anything happening. I'm
Tonga,
looking out now. I don't see any waves.
it's really close to Tonga. It looked kind of serious. So was anybody in this group in the institution subcommittee? Okay, so there you guys are done and all okay.
Yeah, I
The
was
state
just assuming
federal
they wrapped
committee
up.
was running a little long. So hey, Speaker Psyche, we'll have to do
Yes.
I'm whispering to you. I'm in the front of the room whispering to you, so no one else can hear. Speaker Bedke was unable to chair the budget committee, so Senator Duff will make the report for budget committee.
Okay.
Don't tell everybody else. Just
All right, we'll just keep it
make it
between
look
us.
seamless.
We'll keep it between us.
So Senator Duff will make the report for budget and finance committee. He chaired.
Yeah. I was going to tell you something about Speaker Voss, also
No,
confidentially.
don't say anything. Put it in the chat.
Okay, I'll chat it.
Good thing I wasn't listening and I was on mute, so you heard me. You did hear what I said. I will say I was in Key West for the last 5 days. I kind of felt like I was in Hawaii, but the prices weren't as expensive.
Key West. How was Key West?
Good. Yeah, beautiful weather, nice people, pretty crowded, frankly. I was surprised.
Great place to have a meeting for NCSL, right? So
It really would have been. We stayed at this beautiful resort called the Perry. We were doing a fundraiser down there. So pretty nice. So you got to be in more competitive states, Scott, where you have to actually travel to other places to raise money besides your home state.
Absolutely. I think I'll go to Wisconsin next time.
Come on aboard. There's a lot going on here, I can tell you.
Did you host a fundraiser for Speaker Psyche, Speaker Voss?
Yeah, that would be great.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, we should do that.
True bipartisan.
You know what? You know what? I'll do that. I'll do one for you, and you raise the same amount of money for me in Hawaii. I think that would be a fair trade. I think I'd get the better end, frankly, but
We'll set the date. Has to be before May, if possible.
there's something important happening in May?
No, just are we going to be busy this summer? Once June kicks in, it's going to be
That's what I'm afraid of.
difficult. Yeah. So Tim, just let us know when we should start. We have 59
I
participants.
think so I'll start with the housekeeping just because hopefully by now everyone has figured this out from the previous meetings. But if you look in the chat box, we've just put a link to the agenda book, which will be referred to multiple times during this full executive committee meeting. And if you go to that link, you also have it as a PDF, but if you can keep your browser open and go to that link, then on the first page, the second page, after the snowy Washington, the U.S. Capitol building picture, we didn't want to, I don't know what a Zoom picture on the cover of the book would look like, but we went with the default where we were supposed to be. But anyways, on page 2, all the
you want me to open
pages
it?
are hyperlinked.
Maybe I should open it first.
Yeah,
can
open
call
it
it
up
later.
and then you'll see all the pages are
Oh.
hyperlinked. So if you click the page number, it'll jump you in the documents. It's just very handy.
Okay, why don't we officially start the meeting now then?
Yeah.
Since it's 8:04 and we have 62 participants. So welcome everybody to our executive committee meeting. We're sorry that we could not meet in person in Washington, DC. However, I'm hoping that, the virtual meeting today gives maybe people more opportunities to be here if they weren't able to travel to DC. So once again, thanks for your time today. We're going to try to keep our meeting to about an hour because we know that we want to watch the Raiders Bengals game at some point this morning. So why don't we just I'll just turn it over to Tim, but I also want to remind everybody that we are being live streamed. So this is a live stream event. But actually before Tim, we have some new executive committee members. Could the new members introduce themselves really quickly? Just your name and your state and your title. If we could just do that really quickly.
Yeah, I'm Deborah. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Deborah Ferguson, and I'm in the House of Representatives in Arkansas.
Hi, Kevin Dryden, New Jersey.
Bob Duff, Senate Majority Leader in Connecticut.
Briggs Hobson, State Senator in Mississippi.
I'm
Donna
Brock.
Gregory. Donna Gregory, U.S. Virgin Islands Senator.
Brock, Chief of the North Carolina General Assembly Police.
Jill Reinmuth, Washington State Nonpartisan Staff Director.
Sarah Elmore Hernandez, Guam Legislature Chief of Staff.
Are there other new? Oh, pardon.
Casey
Sorry.
Norwalk, Legislative Services Agency, Indiana.
Are there other new members, EC members? Okay, if not, we just want to congratulate all of you for being a part of our executive committee. Want to thank you for making this commitment to NCSL, and we hope that you have productive terms on the executive committee. So welcome aboard. I'd like to turn it over to Tim.
Speaker Psyche, I'm sorry. This is Representative Ryan McKenzie, also new to the executive committee. And thanks for having us. And also, I'd like to thank you for the raw Maui honey that you provided us at the convention. That was delicious and very wonderful. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for attending Hawaii Night in Tampa. So thanks. Thank you, Representative. Tim, did you have any opening comments?
I don't think so. I'll wait till my executive director report, which I think comes up in a minute. Or is this my executive director report?
No, this is just for the protocols.
Yeah, this is just to say the protocols are, we'll be taking some votes, which we'll do by voice vote. And if there's a call for a recorded vote, we'll do that with the red and green arrows, I believe is the plan. And also we're recording this, as you know, because members who couldn't be here, also we always record it for the minutes for the next executive committee. And I think those are the main highlights for now. And I couldn't help but note, Speaker Psyche, you had to get up at some ungodly hour this morning, but we have to acknowledge that Sarah in Guam is on the other side of the international date line and makes your job look almost easy because she had to get up like at midnight or 1 a.m. or something. So everyone, as I understand, making a big sacrifice to be with us today on a Saturday. So, but let's just have a little bit of extra love for Sarah in Guam, who is makes it look easy for Hawaii.
Hey, Sarah.
Yeah.
We have to have a prize for the person with the worst time zone.
Yeah.
Next time there's a virtual meeting. Okay, and the other thing is, I think for motions, Tim, for motions and seconds, do you want the member to give their name when they make the motion?
Thanks for being on top of the script, better than I am.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you make a motion or a second, please identify yourself and state.
Okay, because that goes in the minutes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, we're on item 3, approval of the November 2021 minutes, which are found on page 19 in your EC book. So we need a motion and a second to approve the minutes.
Scott Kaiser moves.
Harry Astor second.
Okay, there's been a motion and it's moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Aye.
All opposed indicate no. If not, motion passes. We're on item 4. Okay, Tim, this is the report by the NCSL. Actually, it's wrong. It's CEO, right? Chief
Right,
Executive
yes.
Officer, not Executive Director.
Thank you, everybody. Look, let's start by acknowledging the obvious. This is not how we planned to do this meeting. We pivoted on sharper than a dime to pull this off in really about 3 weeks when you got that email from me, which was sort of depressing on many levels. But here we are once again in Zoom world, as miserable as it is, and holding you guys' attention for several hours, and we're in the last hour of this thing. I wish I could come up with the right words to express our gratitude to you guys for doing this. So thank you again. Thank you for giving us this time. I'm going to go through a few things again, and especially thank you to President Psyche for chairing the committee, chairing the executive committee this year, and being our fearless leader. I guess I'll start with the big captured highlight, which is that NCSL is firing on all cylinders right now. We are really, I think, in terrific shape, and we're getting lots of positive feedback on the services and the products that we're providing to legislatures across the board. That's going to be reflected in a lot of different ways. So I guess the big takeaway headline for my update is we feel like we're in a really good position right now. And so much of that is due to the support we get from not just the people on the executive committee, but all the legislators and legislative staff who are supportive and use our services, and make sure to share those with your colleagues around there. By the way, I do a written update. It's a little longish this time, full 2 pages, and that's on page 17 of the executive committee book. So if you want to check there, you'll kind of get a written version of what I'm doing now. Another thing about this update, it's only been 2 months since we met. So that's a pretty fast turn. Usually we spread out the executive committees more than just 2 months from each other, but we just met in Tampa because that got moved. So the activity since then has been, in a way, I didn't expect it to be very substantial whatsoever. But in fact, we've done a tremendous amount of connection and service providing to legislatures since then, including several thousand attendees at the summit. The summit attendance was about 2,800, and 2,900 was the registration. As well as we've had hundreds of people participate in webinars and in-person meetings since then. So even though it was really just an 8-week stretch since we last met as an executive committee, there's actually been a lot of connection and involvement with NCSL. I just want to highlight a few other things, because you're going to hear more about the summit in Tampa and the upcoming summit in Denver. But let me hold up this visual. This is the new NCSL magazine. We only publish the hard copy twice a year. So it's almost kind of like I think of it almost like a program for a baseball team or a football team. It has a lot of great information. This will be coming to your inbox if it hasn't arrived already. I think they shipped out in the last few days. So keep it out there. It's just terrific. It's got a ton of information, and both timely and evergreen. There's some cool stuff about state capitals in there, but the publications team did an amazing job to pull that together. It's a huge effort. It's also going to arrive with our calendar that has all the domes on it. So again, we love going out into state capitals and seeing those dome calendars everywhere. Oh, it's already arrived. John Snyder has his. So you'll be getting that dome calendar with the magazine as well. So keep an eye out for that in the next few days. I don't want to go into a lot of detail, because when I say we're firing on all cylinders in good shape, a lot of that has to do with the budget of NCSL. And right now we're in a very solid position. If you look at the budget document, which Senator Duff will refer to when he makes the Budget, Finance, and Rules Committee, our budget is on page 78, and we project a very strong end to the fiscal year. Now, we're only halfway through, but the way NCSL budget flows is a lot of the uncertain activity happens in the first 6 months of the year. The summit, which is sort of always has all kinds of variables that come into play. The receipt of dues, which is obviously a big deal. So we once we sort of factor all the stuff in and now know kind of where we're going to wind up because there's less volatility in the next 6 months, we project a really strong finish to the budget year, even though we're still 5.5 months out, to the tune of perhaps a $950,000 or more surplus on a general fund budget of around $19 million. So that's very healthy, and we're really excited about that. I met with the officers of NCSL, the president, vice president, president-elect, president emeritus, as well as the staff chair and the staff vice chair, and the immediate past staff chair last week, and they strongly endorsed that we assign the vast majority of that, in excess of $800,000, to the reserve fund. So that just makes me very happy because, as you may or may not know, NCSL has not had a formal reserve fund for at least a decade because of the nature of how we were paying off our bonds and a negative fund balance. We will now be erasing our negative fund balance and projecting this strong surplus, which we're going to plow almost all of it into the reserve fund. The rule of thumb for nonprofits is a reserve fund in the neighborhood of 3 to 6 months of your operating budget. So even though we'll hopefully get close to $1 million, that's still well below our target of getting somewhere in the neighborhood of $4.5 to $8.5 million. So that's just really encouraging, and I'm extremely happy to share that news, and is a testament to a lot of good fiscal guidance from the officers, as well as the work of our CFO and Mary Wild and the finance and accounting staff. I'll also just say, the summit itself was, I think, a success on all fronts, both in terms of the quality. We got really positive feedback on the post-attendee survey, as well as the budget for that. And the revenue was about where we expected it, but the expenses were down substantially, and that's part of the reason we have that surplus. So our net take home on the budget was around $550,000. I'll also say that appropriations are very strong. We budgeted receipt of assessed dues in the neighborhood of 92.6%, not neighborhood, 92.6%. We're going to exceed 94% of assessed dues from member states and territories this year. That is over 94%, which is the most we've collected of the dues assessment since 2007. So we're really looking good across the board in terms of the support that the states are giving to NCSL. And that also showed up in the strong attendance at the summit in Tampa. We are continuing to push strong and lean hard into the strategic plan. It has a number of variables, especially around outreach, around identifying new revenue sources, and a whole variety of things. It's in the agenda book as well, and I know the outreach committee discussed that. You'll certainly, when we meet in person, have more time. We'll go into a lot more detail about that, but we're able to fund a number of those initiatives, kind of year 1 to 3-year plan through the foundation, which is also doing terrifically well. I think the strategic plan is really helping guide us substantially right now. First real strategic plan we've had in a number of years, and it's paying off. Couple more things. Finally, Speaker Psyche, we have some major staff changes at our senior executive team. After 15 years, our CFO, Mary Wild, is retiring. She'll be retiring officially in just a few weeks. She wanted to get us through this meeting as well as the audit, which is always a big event in the life of an organization like ours. So in front of you guys, the God and the world, I want to just say what how much sincere gratitude we have to Mary for really outstanding fiscal leadership of the conference. We have turned our finances around in some pretty incredible ways just in the last few years, and so much of that goes to her stewardship and guidance and her professionalism and expertise. So we're really excited to help Mary start a new chapter of her life, and which I'm sure will be awesome. And we have hired a new CFO. Alex Alavi, and I think Alex is in one of these boxes somewhere. So we're excited for Alex to start. He's already started officially. There's an overlap. Very graciously agreed to stay on, and so I've been calling him the CFO IT, the CFO in training. So he's doing some mind meld, little Vulcan mind meld to catch up on what NCSL is all about. But Alex comes from a similar association, so has a really strong idea of what our finances look like. So I'm going to wrap it up there. I think I've touched on the main highlights. And Speaker Psyche, thank you. If there's any questions, of course, I'm always happy to answer.
Thanks, Tim. Are there any questions or comments for Tim? Okay, if not, can we move back to item 2? I inadvertently forgot to take a vote for under item 2, new executive committee members. The protocol at the request of the Legislative Staff Coordinating Committee, the LSCC, is that we vote to approve the LSCC member who is Martin Brock from North Carolina. So could we just like to entertain a motion in a second to approve Martin?
Motion from JJ Gentry, South Carolina, to approve.
Second from
Mark
Susan Kennard, Kansas.
Okay, so is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any no's? If not, motion carries. Okay, thank you. We're on item 5, committee reports. So I'll be taking this out of order. Could we start with subsection C, Budget, Finance, and Rules Committee?
Sure, thank you.
As a part of that, we'll incorporate the report from the Audit and Compliance Committee. Speaker Bedke is unavailable, so Senator Duff will provide the report.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Appreciate it. And good afternoon, good morning, and good overnight to all the folks who are on the Zoom. Good to be with you today. I give this report on behalf of Speaker Scott Bakey, who is unfortunately not able to be on here, but has done a lot of work for this committee, as well as JJ Gentry, who's the staff chair, Steve Pike, the staff vice chair, and Speaker Voss, who's done work on the audit as well, as well as the other staff from NCSL. So 3 main things to report on: the audit, the budget, and the dues schedule for the next 2 years. Tim touched on some of them, but I will just highlight some of the points that I think are very important. So earlier this morning, the NCSL's auditor, Plant Moran, presented the full fiscal year 21 audit to the subcommittee of the Budget, Finance, and Rules Committee. The subcommittee recommended the acceptance of the audit to the full committee. You can find the full audit in draft form on page 22 of the agenda book. The Budget, Finance, and Rules Committee also got an overview of the audit. It was clean, unqualified audit, and there were no findings. The committee voted unanimously to recommend that we accept the audit, thus making it final. So therefore, I move that the full executive committee accept the fiscal year 21 audit. Upon approval of the executive committee, audit reports will be issued as a final document. Is there a motion for that?
Aaron Spilka, so moved.
Second?
Who made the second?
Second by Speaker Saki. Any questions on the motion? Discussion, debate? If not, I don't know, is that my part or your parts, Mr. Speaker, to call it?
You can go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to overlap here. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, thank you. Second part is in the fiscal year 2022 budget. Budget update is in the agenda book on page 78 and includes a column projecting where NCSL staff believes the budget will be at the end of the fiscal year. Again, this is some of the stuff that Tim talked about through as well earlier. Through November 2021, revenues were strong, especially due to excellent dues collections of $9 million and the legislative summit revenue in line with the approved budget of around $2.2 million. Fiscal year 2022 appropriations received through January 2022 include full payments from 44 states and territories with an additional 11 strongly anticipated by year end. Expected annual collection rate is 94.3%, as Tim alluded to, with the budget compared to the budget of 92.6%. This portends additional general fund revenue of another $200,000. Fiscal year 2022 general fund expenses are in line with the approved budget, with a few notable exceptions. The legislative summit expenses were lower by more than $500,000. Not holding the meeting in person will save around $50,000, and slow return to travel is also resulting in savings. The NCSL staff are projecting that the year will end with a budget surplus exceeding $950,000. At a meeting of the NCSL officers last week, the staff was directed to designate at least $800,000 of the surplus for the recently established reserve fund. The recommended reserve fund for nonprofits like NCSL is 3 to 6 months of general operating expenses. The fiscal year 22 budget set aside a modest $50,000 for that fund, so this will be a big step in the right direction toward that target. We also instructed the staff to use a portion of the surplus along with funds from eliminated FTEs to implement the expected recommendation from the compensation study by salary.com to determine the market competitiveness of NCSL pay system. And I think we also the committee also wanted to thank Mary Wild and her staff for all their work on this and welcome Alex Alavi to the team as well. I don't think that's just a report. I don't think there's a motion or anything on that part. And then for fiscal year 23 and 24 dues, a dues proposal is on page 85 of the agenda book. NCSL has frozen dues for the past 2 years during the pandemic. Because of mounting pressures of inflation and projected inflationary pressure, along with the need to continue building a reserve fund, the Budget, Finance, and Dues Committee is recommending that the dues be increased 4% for the next 2 fiscal years. I move that the Executive Committee adopt the dues schedule on page 85 for fiscal year 23 and 24.
Is there a second?
Second,
Who made the second?
Representative Kennedy.
Okay. Is there any discussion? This is Scott. It's like if I could just note that the 4% increase for NCSL, the proposed 4% increase, is a little lower than the increases that were set by CSG, and I also believe the National Governors Association. I think CSG was at 5% per year, so ours is a little bit less. Is there any discussion before we take the vote? Okay, if not, all those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say
Aye.
no. If not, motion passes. Senator Duff. You have anything
That's my report, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Thanks for this opportunity, and thanks Tim and staff for all their work. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thanks, Senator, and thanks to the Budget Committee and Audit Committee as well. Okay, we're on item 5B. This is the Subcommittee on Bylaws, which I actually chair. I'd like to thank all of the members of our subcommittee for continuing their work for a second year. So as you know, last year we created the subcommittee so that we could modernize the NCSL bylaws. We wanted to also ensure that the bylaws are designed to promote maximum opportunity for people to participate in NCSL and to be involved. We did adopt a set of revisions at the Tampa Summit a couple of months ago, and those updated bylaws are in your Executive Committee book. So this morning, when our bylaws subcommittee met, we did set a timetable for any further revisions, proposed revisions. We're looking at submitting proposals to the Executive Committee at the May meeting. So we'll be working between now and May to see how we can modernize the bylaws, see if there are any obsolete provisions in the bylaws. We do welcome input from all of the EC members. If you have any suggestions for areas that you would like us to address, please email your comments or your questions to Molly at NCSL. She'll be collecting all of the comments on this. Okay, so are there any questions? Okay, if not, we'll move on to item 5D, Committee on Outreach and Member Services. Representative Kennedy.
Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where everyone is today. Thank you, Mr. President. This is a summary of the Committee on Outreach and Member Services. One of the key responsibilities of the committee is to review large grants and contracts over $100,000. If you would turn to pages 88 through 91 in your workbook, you'll notice that there were a number of grants and contracts that were brought up today. NCSL Director of State Policy Research, Laura Tobler, asked us to accept projects 1 through 11, and they were all approved by the committee. There were just 2 new projects that required the executive committee approval. One was strengthening the legislative capacity around healthcare costs. This is a $145,000 amount through Arnold Ventures, and they're looking to get this one underway as soon as February the 1st and wrapping up next year in January of 2023. They're looking at 1 meeting, 1 webinar, and a publication. The second new one is a work group on portable benefits for independent contract workers. This is being done in conjunction with Amazon. It was an amount of $140,258. And this, they're looking to also get underway as soon as February of this year. Again, looking at 1 meeting, a webinar, and a publication, and hoping to have a group of legislators meet on this over the course of the 12 months to develop a document titled Principles for Portable Benefits for Independent Contracts. The remaining 8 or 9 other ones were previously approved by the executive committee. So those are all listed on pages 88 through 91 of your workbook. And specifically on this, I'd make a motion for the executive committee to approve the contracts as proposed.
Is there a second?
So second,
Please identify yourself.
Senator Milner.
Okay, thanks. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Okay, motion carries. Representative Kennedy.
Thank you. In addition to that, we heard a report regarding the 2021 Legislative Summit, which took place in Tampa in November. Obviously, this was our first summit since August of 2019. After moving it from Chicago due to concerns about holding the meeting, we moved on to Tampa, where we had an attendance of approximately 2,900 people, which is about half of what we typically draw for an NCSL meeting, but what we expected would be the case. You will see a summary of how attendees reacted to the meeting, starting on page 92. As the CEO mentioned in his report, the overall attendee score for the meeting actually was higher than the 2019 meeting in Nashville. The major complaint about the meeting was the food, specifically the infamous boxed lunches, which tasted like a box. They were not very good, but unfortunately there were very few vendors available, and obviously we will not be using the same vendors when we get to Denver. So I expect the food in Denver this summer will be much, much better. But I would encourage everyone to take a look at the summary and see the comments that were brought back. We also looked over a draft of the schedule for the 2022 Legislative Summit, which will take place this August in Denver. You can view that draft on page 96 of the workbook. Gene Rose and his team in the Communications Division are soliciting feedback on that schedule. The major adjustment this year is to go to a full 3-day meeting. Tampa was a 2.5-day meeting. I'll also mention that the team is considering moving the schedule from a Monday, Wednesday timeline. So in your workbook, it would show the executive committee meeting starting on Sunday with some pre-conference meetings on Sunday, and then the meetings themselves start Monday, Tuesday, and wrapping up on Wednesday. However, the team is looking to renegotiate that, which would then move the executive committee and the pre-meetings to Monday, and then the NCSL full 3-day schedule going to a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday timeline. This would limit weekend travel for attendees. Right now, there's negotiations going on with the hotels to see if this is possible, and we will find out probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks whether in fact that will happen or not. As part of the discussion earlier this morning on this issue, one of the concerns is that last day of the meeting. So whether it stays as a Wednesday wrap up or a Thursday wrap up. The concern right now is you have a legislative luncheon scheduled from noon to 1:30 p.m. on the last day. Then you have some perhaps on-site things that individuals can go and attend. And then finally, a wrap-up event that evening from, I believe, 6 to 8 p.m. And the concern is how to keep legislators there so that they will stay and not only attend the luncheon, but also participate in those afternoon ventures and then the evening wrap-up event. And that obviously is going to take some effort and some work on the part of everyone to make that happen. But we do hope that we can make it a full 3-day event and that legislators will stick around for that. After that, we also heard from NCSL Director of Leaders and International Programs, Stacy Householder, who briefed us on the NCSL strategic plan, which was approved by the Executive Committee in Tampa. That plan is available for your review starting on page 97. Stacy told us that NCSL has funded several projects and what the plan is for accomplishing the goals of the plan that go through the year 2025. Much of the effort right now focuses on member engagement and participation. We also heard from NCSL Director of Outreach and Engagement, Amy Skinner, and NCSL Public Affairs and Broadcasting Director, Mick Bullock. They updated us on outreach efforts that are happening in the Communications Division. And you can see the highlights of that report starting on page 101 in your agenda book. There's a lot of positive work that has been done since the Tampa meeting, especially considering this report highlights activity since November. And to give a shout out to Tim Story, he has started a podcast. So we encourage you all to listen to these episodes where he interviewed some of the key thought leaders. So, Mr. Chair, that completes my report. And if there are any questions, I'll take them.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, if not, thank you, Representative Kennedy and Outreach Committee members. We're on item 5E, Subcommittee on the Legislative Institution, Senate President Spilka.
Thank you very much. Briefly, I just want to start out by thanking Senator Ryan Raisin for co-chairing this committee with me and helping me out, and to the terrific assistance of NCSL staff, Natalie Wood, Arturo Perez, and Angela Andros. Thank you so much. We talked a bit about the jurisdiction of and the key charge to help legislatures with their institutional programming and legislative institution and strengthening it. And we went over some of the projects that NCSL is working on this current year and next year. I do want to acknowledge for everybody that the Massachusetts Senate has had the great benefit of NCSL to do a compensation study to strengthen our institutional, legislative institutional operations. And it, I believe, will have a significant and positive impact on the staff and overall Senate of the Massachusetts legislature. So I want to thank them. We talked a bit about bipartisan traditions and civility and what can be done and ways to enhance it. Several folks offered some ideas as to what they do in their legislature, whether it be bipartisan or bicameral, and came away with many ideas. We also talked about the programming for the upcoming summit. What are some things that people thought would be necessary, building on some of the ideas of our last summit in Tampa, and working further for helping the legislators as well as the staff. And that was about it. So thank you. That's all I have as well.
Okay, thanks, President Spilka. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, if not, thank you, President and members of the Legislative Institution Committee. For an item 5F, Subcommittee on State Federal Policy, Representative Usher.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Representative Barry Usher from Montana. I'm co-chair of this subcommittee alongside Assemblywoman Murphy from New Jersey, Martha Wigton, co-chair, staff co-chair she's the from Georgia, I'm sorry, and Lonnie Udger is also co-chair, staff co-chair. We had a pretty full and exciting agenda today, but we had to keep it on track, mainly because we had a 30-minute discussion with the U.S. Treasury came to visit to discuss the final rule they released last week relating to the state and local Fiscal Recovery Fund program. This was the $350 billion that was for state and local governments from the ARPA Act. I think it was a pretty eye-opening discussion. It made it, their final rule made it much more broad. Seems like they're much more flexible than their interim rule. We got to ask a lot of questions, and we've got more questions for them too, and they're willing to get back to us. So they were awesome. But thankfully they kept on track, and they understood we had a hard stop to get to this meeting. Secondly, we received an update from NCSL staff on the activities going on in DC, and we had a little discussion and a survey on what subcommittee members would be interested in participating on as far as virtual briefings from Congress or congressional staff or the administration. I think there was a wide variety of different topics. We also discussed and created a working group to explore standing committees being able to vote virtually since the pandemic. We need to get some of our bylaws. We have a bylaw subcommittee, but we want to recommend to them on what we should do as far as our standing committees being able to vote virtually on policy directives and resolutions, so we can be better prepared and give the proper notice prior to legislative summit when the full executive board and also the full NCSL votes on anything. So we're working on that. And then we discussed hosting a gathering, probably virtual if it's sooner rather than later, of all state federalism and intergovernmental affairs relations committees from all the states. There's a good list of them. It was eye-opening to me because I didn't know so many states actually had those standing committees or working groups in the states. With that said, Mr. Speaker, that concludes my report, but if anybody has any questions, I'm open for those, and so are my other co-chairs. And then Senator Wayne Harper is going to do a quick update on some other activities that NCSL is doing in Washington.
Okay, Senator Harper, can you give your report, and then we'll take questions for both of you after that.
Sure thing. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Senator Wayne Harper from Utah. I serve as the co-chair of the NCSL standing committees. My new co-chair is Senator Christina Castro from Illinois, and I welcome her aboard and for what we're going to do in the future with this great organization. Since we gathered in Tampa, NCSL staff in DC has been very busy working on implementation of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which contains several of NCSL infrastructure priorities, which a lot of that bill was really one for our states. Since the law's enactment, NCSL published a timely summary, hosted a widely attended briefing on the components of the bill, and will continue to host more targeted briefings, with the next one scheduled later this month, focusing on water infrastructure. They have also provided briefings for individual state committees and in legislators. So if you're interested, please reach out to Molly Ramsdale. Our great NCSL staff is really excited to help other people. In about a week or so, NCSL will also launch a UIJJ implementation webpage full of resources. So check the website and be on the lookout for that. There's a report on page 105 of your book that provides more details on work surrounding the new infrastructure laws, as well as highlights of selected federal state activities. I encourage everyone to review the full report. And lastly, Mr. President, I want to mention that I, along with Kansas Representative Barbara Ballard and Illinois Senator Sue Resin, had the opportunity and privilege to attend the infrastructure bill signing at the White House in behalf of NCSL. That was a great opportunity there to be with 300 or 400 of our closest friends on the White House lawn on a very, very cold day, but it was a pleasure to be there representing this great organization. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments for Representative Usher or Senator Harper? Okay, if not, thank you very much to the State Federal Policy Committee members. We're on item 6. This is a task force renewal. If you could look at page 20 of your workbook. There is a listing of NCSL task forces that we need to renew. And I wanted to call on Stacy Householder if she could explain that we did remove one of the task forces from this list, this international task force. Stacy, are you available?
Thanks, Speaker Psyche. Yes, so the one task force that is not up for renewal right now is the Task Force on International Relations. We've spoken with the co-chairs of that particular task force, and the work that they're doing right now just doesn't really fit the model of the task force that NCSL has laid out. In fact, the task forces have different criteria that they are supposed to meet, and the international relations one hasn't met that criteria for quite a while. So we thought a better fit for our international relations would be to convert it over to a network, which is what we are in the process of doing. And that will allow for more people to be involved with NCSL's international work and take us away from the requirements of a particular task force, which just doesn't really fit the model of our international relations partnerships.
Okay. Are there any questions on that, on international relations? Any questions? Okay, if not, is there a motion to adopt the 8 task forces on page 20?
I'll make a motion to adopt and renew those committees. This is Giovanni.
And I'll second that. This is Ann Milner.
All right, is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed,
Aye.
Aye.
all opposed say no. Motion is carried. Thank you. We're on item 7, LSCC report. JJ Gentry.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is JJ Gentry. I'm counsel to the South Carolina Senate, and I am the current staff chair for NCSL. In that role, I'm also the chair of the Legislative Staff Coordinating Committee For those of you that aren't familiar with LSCC, as we call it, LSCC serves in an advisory capacity to this executive committee and oversees NCSL's support for the more than 30,000 legislative staff members that work for you as legislators that are here at this meeting. I want to give just a quick welcome to the new legislative staff members of the executive committee. I'm not going to introduce them again since they introduced themselves at the beginning of the meeting, but I will mention where they're from: North Carolina, New Jersey, Indiana, Washington, and as Tim pointed out, one of our new members is from Guam. So we have a great cross section of legislative staff from across the country and even the world now. So I'm very excited about those new members participating. Yesterday, LSCC held its first meeting, and each of the work groups and subcommittees got together and set forward a plan for accomplishing the goals that I've put forward for supporting legislative staff. Just to give you a kind of broad overview of those goals, I'll mention a few of those. One is to enhance outreach to legislative staff through technology, identifying legislative staff who are not currently involved in NCSL, and developing programs for outreach and involvement in NCSL, such as looking at a possibility of forming a legislative staff state coordinator program similar to the legislator program. Also to enhance opportunities for legislative staff to participate in professional development, like staff exchanges from one state to the other, or perhaps even international staff exchanges between legislatures, the Staff Certificate Program, and the Legislative Staff Management Institute. Also to enhance opportunities for legislative staff to participate more in professional staff associations that are part of LSCC, and also to get more involved in the standing committees, such as serving possibly as neutral parliamentarians during those meetings and moderators or speakers at the different conferences. And finally, I'll just emphasize, I have also put together a special pandemic work group. The goal is that this work group will study how, in conjunction with NCSL staff, how various state legislators have responded to the pandemic, and then try to provide a resource for the legislatures to use to be able for the future operations during emergencies. So in other words, documenting what has happened and what's continuing to happen under this pandemic for the future, and also looking for the sharing of ideas of how the different legislators are handling, operating, in case there's some ideas that other states might want to pick up in the future for those operations. I just want to say finally, thank you to the members of LSCC that are serving this year, in particular the ones that are here today that are members of the executive committee and members of LSCC. And then I want to give a shout out to NCSL staff led mainly by Angela Andrews for LSCC. They're an incredible support for LSCC and for legislative staff. I want to give them a shout out. I can't name everyone right now, but you are much appreciated for the work you do with LSCC and for legislative staff. Mr. Chairman, that is my report.
Okay, are there any questions or comments? Okay, if not, thank you, JJ and LSCC members. Okay, we're on item 8, NCSL Foundation, Speaker Voss.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, greetings from the home of the Green Bay Packers, the future winners of the Super Bowl. So if any of you look at the Las Vegas odds, get in now because they are certainly favored, but the odds still look good to bet on. So just want to let you know about that. The foundation has been doing amazing work. First of all, I want to start by thanking Kevin and Caroline and all of the staff who work at NCSL, because if you look on page 109 of your agenda book, you will see that we set a very aggressive goal of $3.25 million for us to be able to raise from our private sector friends. And as of this date, we have raised more than $1.5 million, more than $600,000 above where we were this time last year. So I do want to also just take a brief minute, and for those sponsors who are watching at home on YouTube, let's give them a big shout out and a big round of applause for all of the people who have really gone above and beyond to help NCSL be supported during the pandemic, but also to remember that we are, I saw that, go Cowboys, forget it. That for all the people who are supportive of NCSL, the great work that everybody does, but the private sector certainly is incredibly important to help us be successful. So thank you for that. We actually had about $650,000 from new sponsors and $202,000 from the dues increase. As of right now, we have 10 Capital Circle sponsors, up from 5 at the start of the fiscal year. And we've recruited 11 new or upgraded platinum sponsors. If you look at page 109 again in your book, you will see that they are listed there. And a full list of all the foundation sponsors can be found on pages 114 and 150. So please take a moment to look at those. And again, when we have the opportunity to meet in person, make sure you see our sponsors and express our gratitude for the great work they are helping NCSL to do. The foundation is also trying to look for other ways to interact, connect, and provide value to the sponsors. For many of you, we had the opportunity to go to Dublin in October. There's a picture in the book for NCSL's International Leaders Symposium, which was fantastic. Our host, Senator Mark Daly, the president of the Senate in Ireland, the speaker actually, did a great job hosting us, but it was incredibly helpful to be able to connect with our sponsors, and thanks for those who participated. We also know that the foundation board met in Tampa, and as was reported to this body then, the foundation directors also approved the 21 audit. With that, I'm happy to take any questions, but again, just a big shout out to Caroline and all the staffers who work at the foundation, because they have gone above and beyond, and we keep expecting big things, and they continue to deliver. So thanks for that, Mr. President.
Okay, thanks. Are there any questions for Speaker Voss? If not, thank you very much, Speaker Voss. We're on item 8. This is the closing. Are there any questions or comments from anyone before we close? Any questions?
Yes, I can go. I just wanted to say a few words to let you know that the National Assembly of Quebec will be hosting the next NCSL Symposium for Leaders this summer from June 28th to July 1st. So we're proud to be hosting this meeting for the second time in Quebec, and it will be an honor for me and my colleagues to welcome you to our assembly, as our hospitality is our trademark. So stay tuned in the next coming months for more details. And right now it's -13 Fahrenheit, but it will be in the 80-ish in June or July. All right.
Thank you for the update. Are there any other questions or comments before we close? Okay, if not, before we close, I wanted to do a shout out to Murray Wild. I don't know where Murray is on the screen. I want to just thank Murray for all of her years of service to NCSL and for keeping us on good financial footing. And we just want to extend our best wishes on your retirement, Mary. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Do you want to say anything before?
Well, I feel like you guys have been more than generous in saying that to me. I feel like in some ways I maybe announced a little early, but to say, I think it's real important that continuity is there. And I want to thank all of my EMT members, executive management team members, for their support and the fact that we've welcomed Alex into the fold. And I'm very excited to see the organization continue in its path.
Okay, thanks, Murray. What is your last day, by the way?
February 11th.
Okay. All right,
Yes.
thanks.
Speaker
Thank you
Psyche,
so
too.
much.
Yes, Tim.
I have just two points. Number one, you guys, I really want to let Mary know publicly just how grateful we are. She's just been an amazing steward of your finances for her 15 years at NCSL. So we're going to miss her a lot. We'll be celebrating her in the coming weeks, but publicly want to acknowledge that. And my final thought is you guys have endured, in some cases, 4 hours of looking at this screen. And so thank you once again. This is not how we planned it, but let's look forward. We will be meeting in Seattle as an executive committee on May the 20th and 21st. And let me tell you, my word as a gentleman, for what that's worth, and I think it's worth something, it will be a bell ringer. We will do something special for everybody in Seattle. I'd like it to be the best attended executive committee we've ever had, May the 20th and 21st in Seattle. And we're gonna have like double dinners. We were supposed to be at dinner at Charlie, what's its name, in Washington last night or night before. So we've got funding to do 2 dinners on the same night and then 2 dinners the next night. I don't know what we're going to do, but we're Charlie Palmer. We're going to make Seattle special. So please mark your calendars. Please figure it out if you can get there. We need to get back together and run this organization. My eternal gratitude. Thank you, Speaker Psyche. Have a great weekend. Go whatever
Thanks, Tim.
team you support because the Broncos are out.
Thanks, Tim. Also, could we just want to do a shout out to all of the rest of the NCSL staff for all of your work during the past year and keeping us, on track and pivoting all constantly throughout the year. So thank you to the NCSL staff. So just want to say good luck to all of you. I know sessions are starting up, so good luck to everybody. And we will see you in Seattle in May. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
Go on.
Stay safe,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.